my own emotions and reactions, right? So what does it mean and how do you practice it? So what it means is you need to find a time for yourself to review what you have done throughout the day or week, or different events after it takes place. You need to take time to understand that, okay, whether everything went accordingly. If not, then what do you take from that? Okay, what you should have done on that case. So a few relevant example can be that maybe if I'm thinking that, okay, how did my day go? And if I see, okay, you know what, there was one client meeting that I should have done better in that meeting, right? So you should be asking, okay, so what I should have done? It could be that, okay, you did not review the meeting agenda beforehand. Maybe it is that you were not prepared for that meeting. Maybe you had too many meetings and you did not prepare for that client, right? Maybe you should have think. The answer could have been that, okay, you know what, I didn't spend time to have enough domain knowledge about that client's requirements. That's why I need to have another meeting with that client. So this is what is your takeaway basically. So another example can be that, okay, maybe you just came from playing a soccer game. So maybe you have identified that, okay, why did we lose? Maybe you have identified some time during the game where somebody should have passed the ball instead of trying to score themselves. Maybe it is you who should have passed the ball to your colleague or your friend or your striking partner instead of you trying to score the goal. But for that to happen, you need to think about it. That means you need to take some time aside to think about what has gone wrong or gone right. Now, the way I do it, I mean, I think I have said it to many of the people who I do one-on-one with and some of the onboarding, is that when I go from home to go home from work, it takes me about 6 to 7 minutes while I'm driving. And this is the time I take to review my entire days of work. Right? Now that doesn't mean that, okay, I start by saying, okay, 8 a.m. I open my computer, what happened after that? Oh, then I had this presentation, then I had client meeting, I did review that project. No, it doesn't go like that. Every single day, I'm pretty sure you have some specific events, right? And it is very limited, probably 1, 2, or 3 maximum. So what emotional intelligence is telling you that you need to review those things. But for that to happen, as I said, you need to find your own time to do it, and you need to do it on a regular basis. You can do this while you are watching TV in your sofa. You can do it while you are taking a shower, or again, as I said, just like me, you can do that while you are commuting to your home from work, or maybe end of the, or maybe at nighttime when you are at bed, you can take 5 minutes of your time to review what you have done, and then take a note. I'm not saying literally take a note, but have it in your mind that, okay, you know what, if this situation comes in next time, then I shouldn't be doing what I have done. In my example, as I said, if I failed some client meetings I could have done better, then it will only work if I don't do the same thing over again next time. So it should be in my mind that, okay, you know what, I have made this mistake last time, I shouldn't be doing it again. Same thing if you're playing a soccer game and if you have missed a goal just because it didn't pass, next time you should be passing the ball to your partner if he's in a better position to score the goal, right? So that kind of realization needs to come in. Step 2, ask others for perspective on how they view your interactions with them. Again, I'm going to read again. Ask others for perspective on how they view your interaction with them. So how do you ask, right? And where do you start asking, right? And what do you do with that information? So one example I always give is that it is always easy to ask your wife, your girlfriend, your brother, your sister, your close friends. Ask them and start with very simple things like, hey, what do you find annoying in me? Right? It's just an example. Right? Initially, they'll say, what? Oh, are you crazy? What do you mean by this? Because people usually don't ask these kind of questions. But if you are being serious enough, we say, hey, really tell me, like, what do you hate about me? And they will tell you something. right? I don't like the shirt that you wear. I don't like your hairstyle. I don't like the way you eat. I don't like that you are always late. I don't like that if you're asking your mom, you're like, okay, you always forget one thing that I ask you to bring from grocery. You bring 4 other things and you always forget one thing, right? Or your colleague may say, okay, like for example, my colleagues in New York office said, I am always very loud while I'm talking to client or having any meeting. That's a feedback, right, that they have given it to me. Or Ukraine members, I think they all got this feedback. That's why they don't have meeting while sitting in their chair. They always go to the meeting room. So that's a feedback, but it only happened because other people gave them this feedback. So you have to take this initiative if you really want to get good feedback or honest feedback. I mean, I cannot just ask a random people, like say, for example, Rajibur in Silat office, right? He just recently joined. If I ask him to give me a feedback, he cannot give me a feedback. He doesn't know me well enough to give me a feedback. So it always has to start from your closest peer, because they will give you the most honest, and they will even probably criticize you, right? Or give you a harsh feedback. But this is what you want. Okay. Now, what do you do with this information? Now that I have received this, now what happens? Does my ego comes in front of me and said, no, you know what? You are completely wrong, right? This is not me, right? Or, I don't care. I asked him, he gave me a bad feedback. I'm not a bad person. Or I don't do that. If that's your answer to yourself, then you are obviously wrong. Now, it might be irrelevant, but if you want to continue to the next level, if your mother is saying same thing and you said, you know what, this is not true, ask your sister, hey, is it true? They are all your family members, right? So their answer should be relevant. Same thing if your colleague, if I ask Saeed that, okay, am I being loud? If he said, yes, Arif, you are too loud. Like, no, I think Saeed is too close to me. That's why he thinks I'm too loud. Maybe I should ask Joseph. If Joseph says the same thing, then I should ask myself that, you know what, looks like it is true, that people are finding it hard to concentrate while I'm having meeting, or if I'm being too loud while I'm talking to a client. Step 3, be observant of your emotions based on your newly acquired information from step 1 and 2, right? So step 1 was taking time to review your day, what you have done, what you could have done. Step 2 is asking people about perspective about yourself. So step 3 is actually, what exactly are you going to do with those information now that you have it, right? And how do you react to those information, right? I mean, do you get really frustrated at yourself that, you know what, we lost the game, it was my fault, you know what, forget about it, I'm not gonna play soccer anymore, right? Or do you say, oh, my colleagues don't like me, I'll quit the job, I'll find a job where people are okay with me being loud with client, right? Are you that kind of a person, right? Or you say, you know what, my girlfriend says I'm always late, forget it, she's always late, I'm gonna leave her. Or, you know, you say, oh, I'm gonna leave him, right, because he's complaining about me, right? If that's your reaction to this, then obviously step 3 is saying, now that you have the information, what are you going to do with that information? How do you perceive that information? How do you process this information within yourself? Does it get you mad now? Or are you being like, okay, you know what, I got the information, now let me review. Let me see what I'm doing wrong. It could be just simply passing on the correct information. Maybe they don't have enough information, right? If my girlfriend says, hey, you always wear the same shirts, maybe I should tell her this is the shirt I like, or maybe this is the only shirt I have. Just for example, right? If I tell her that, maybe she will not complain anymore, right? So step 3 is about what is your reaction to those information and what is the next step? What do you do about it? Right? Similarly, when I said, if you feel you could have done better in a client meeting, then if your reaction, what is your reaction to this? Are you taking initiative that, okay, next time when you have a client meeting, are you preparing yourself? Or it's like, you know what, there was one time, forget about it, it's not going to happen again. But then after 2 months, it happens again. And now you're thinking, oh, you know what, if I had this realization 2 months ago, I could have fixed it. Just like I'm pretty sure some of you, like me, who are not very good in school, You probably say, you know what, I'm going to study. So what, I failed in this class. It's okay. I'm going to pass next class. It's just one class. But then next semester, same thing happens. Like, oh shit, I got a C in that class. I should have studied. So that kind of realization should not be happening, or it shouldn't be happening over and over again. Once you have some information, you should be working with those information. Step 4, pause for a moment to think before you act or speak. Does not mean you freeze in certain situation. Like if somebody asks me, hey, how are you? I'm like, what? Let me pause. It's not like that, right? It's just like a stop sign. If you are driving, if you see a stop sign, you stop, and then you look around and you go, drive your car. And I'm going to tell you some benefits of pausing. So what it means is that don't be a reactive person, right? Be proactive. So reactive means people who are reactive, they are mostly argumentative. They always feel they have to answer. They always feel they have to say things back, right? And sometimes after saying things back, they probably realize that, you know what, they have gone too far and they cannot step back anymore. So they continue with their argument. Right? I'm pretty sure you have gone through this phase many times with your friends and family where you felt you are right, but after a while you realize that you are not right. But your ego comes into place and says, you know what, I have to continue to prove myself right, even though I know I'm wrong, right? So to stop that thing, always think before you speak. I was a person, I was a very reactive person. I would say when client sends an email, I would send right away an email back, right? And then I will regret sending that email back after 5 minutes, because then I was like, okay, if I have to rewrite that email, I could have used some better words. My choice of words were poor at that time because I was angry, right? Or even to some colleagues, even I would give Shahid badge back like 3 years back. When if he gives me a badge, if I don't agree, I'll give him something back, because I felt, you know what, I don't deserve it. So he should know that I don't deserve it. So that kind of mentality I had. But once these days, when I receive anything, I take time. Like, okay, let me think about it. Why did I get this badge? Did I do anything wrong? And if he is giving me a badge for being late on my action items, I'll go back and say, yeah, it is true. I have 30 backdated action items, right? So he's doing his job. Similarly, on emails, I have seen multiple times, like I think I've said it before, I have 1 minute delay on my email. So when I send something, it goes after 1 minute. So within this 1 minute, I can always go back and catch my email. Like, okay, you know what, let me change it. And almost 40% of the time, I end up changing the wording in my email. So when I send something, I think about it, what am I sending? Right? I'm like, okay, this word, it doesn't look good. Let me go back and change it. So it helps me to fix myself with this email delay. But in general, whenever you are talking to somebody, and whether you are talking to a client, whether if client is talking about a change request that you don't want to agree, and it's like, you know what, stop. No, this is a change request. We're not gonna do it. Instead, you let him finish. Then you explain him why it is a change request, why it will delay the deadline, all these things, right? So this is what it means, that pausing and waiting for the right moment to speak, or gathering your thought first instead of being reactive, right? Letting your emotion take over or your ego take over. This is when you make mistakes and things go wrong. Same thing, I have found it useful when I had my wife as my girlfriend. When she was mad, I would just stay quiet. I like, let her finish. And by the time she is done, I found out, like, within herself, she is calmed down. I didn't have to say anything to calm her down. But if I had said something at that time, it would have pissed her off even more, right? Even as of today, same thing happens. When she is arguing, I don't say anything. I'm like, you know what? I have my opinion, but let her finish. And by the time she finishes, and if I say something, it's much more less of a scene. Let's just put it this way. And step 5 says, keep the why people are feeling the way they are at the forefront of your mind before interacting with them. right? So it is very strong, actually, this statement that why people are feeling the way they are at the forefront of your mind before interacting with them. Like if I ask you what is happening with this boy, right? Everybody will have different opinion, right? One of you may say, okay, he's depressed. One of you will say, okay, he's tired, right? If you ask me, I'll say maybe he's reviewing his entire day's work, right? He's meditating, he's thinking about it. So we really don't know, but we all have our judgment, right? Without even asking this boy, they're okay, hey, what is going on? How are things, right? This is how, we perceive different scenarios without even investigating what it is, why it is, right? And if there's anything you can do to help this scenario, right? So one example can be that, okay, if your colleague comes to office late, right? What is our first impression? He always comes late. Oh, you know what? He's late. Probably he had a meeting with his girlfriend, right? Probably he's late because he watched TV all night, so he couldn't wake up in the morning, right? Or you can say, oh, probably he just missed his bus, or his car probably broke down, so he's late. So we are already speculating about things that just because somebody came in 15 minutes late or half an hour late. But instead, if we are empathetic enough, we would be asking, hey, what happened? Why you were late, right? Is there something I can do? Maybe his wife was sick. Maybe his parents had an accident. Maybe he had an accident. So many things can happen. But if you speculate about things, then there's a 90% chance that you're going to make mistake about perceiving like what exactly happened. So everybody is different. Everybody comes from different culture. We all were raised in a different way. So we shouldn't be judging people, right? We don't have the right to judge people. So always take time to show your empathy to whether your colleague, your friend, your wife, your friends, your brothers, sisters, whoever they are. Even if you're walking in the street and if you see somebody like this, you shouldn't be just, speculating, right? Oh, he's a homeless guy, or, he's just a beggar, forget about it. Those things, we shouldn't be doing it. Now, step 6, don't be offended by criticism. Seek out what you can learn from it. It's because on step 2, when I said that, okay, always ask about perspective from other people, right? About yourself. When you're asking, you shouldn't be asking, hey, only tell good things about me. If you have anything bad, don't tell me. You shouldn't be asking this, right? You ask for a feedback. You wanted to make changes within yourself, right? So if somebody gives you an honest feedback, now this honest can be a criticism. It can be a constructive criticism, or if it's your parents or your family, they'll give you directly negative criticism, right? So it is nothing personal. They don't want to make you look bad. It's just because you have to believe that, okay, just because I asked them for an honest feedback, they have said something. Now it came out to be a negative one or a constructive one. So it is nothing personal. It's not a personal agenda. They didn't come to you giving you feedback. You went to them asking feedback. So you should be thankful that they gave feedback. Now there's one thing you must consider. Just because you receive the feedback, that doesn't mean you really have to change yourself, right? You are on your own. You are somebody, you are unique, right? So I shouldn't completely change myself for somebody, right? Maybe it is just their view. This is why I said, if you don't agree with something, always get more opinions to see if it is relevant to other people. Right? As I said, if I just ask Saeed and if he says, yes, I'm loud, and if I don't agree within myself that, okay, you know what, I'm not loud, I should always ask other people. Right? And even if I'm not satisfied with Joseph saying the same thing, I should be asking Shahera, who's sitting behind me, or Shahid, who's sitting a little farther away. Right? And if they all echo the same message, then I should be putting my ego aside. That's the most important thing. That most of the time it happens that our ego takes over. and we get defensive, we said, you know what, you guys don't know anything. I'm right. Most of us feel this way, right? Same thing about the soccer game example. If your realization is that, okay, you know what, I should have passed the ball, but if your ego says, you know what, I'm the best player, I should always be trying to score the goal. So what, we lost. If that's your realization, then that is wrong. And the last thing, practice, practice, and keep practicing, right? It's not that, okay, you know what, I will ask somebody for feedback once a year, right? One day I will ask 10 people about feedback and then forget about it. It's not gonna work out. Same thing. Remember I said about reviewing your every day's work? You cannot be doing it once a month or once a week. It's not gonna work out. Same thing, pausing, reacting, not reacting, those things requires practice. Like this boy probably did not even hit a single ball the whole day if it is the first time he's holding a bat, right? But if he's practicing every day, every week, eventually he will start hitting balls, right? And then the more he hits, the better he will get at it. Similarly, you will also be able to help yourself not to be reactive, because once you practice enough, it becomes a habit for you. So that means you're not going to react to somebody. You will let them finish what they're saying. You're not going to be argumentative. You'll try to be reasonable, right? When you ask for feedback, you'll be able to provide them a better answer at that time, maybe, right? If the information is already known to you. Now, what I mean by this is that if I ask Said and somebody new comes in, and for example, somebody else said the same thing, then I can find it more relevant that, you know what, it is true. And I can tell him that, okay, you know what, yes, thanks for your feedback. I'm actually working on this. Right? So that is very important for emotional intelligence. I mean, by definition and everything is very easy, right? But unless you put it into practice, it is of no use. And that's the most difficult part, right? I mean, we all know that, okay, self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy. I mean, we probably had 20, 30 PDC classes about these things, right? Specifically about those topics. And we all know these things. But the most important part is, what exactly are we doing about those things, right? Are you being self-conscious? Are you taking or making enough effort to work on it, to improve on your emotional intelligence? So this is it. This is my presentation. If anyone has any question, if you want to share anything, this is the time.
Well, I just want to thank you for the presentation and about the things that you should pause and think. I definitely feel the punch of my ego sometimes, and I have to stop myself before react. I'm very a while ago I was very reactive. Now it's getting better, and yeah, this thing like to stop and to think. Maybe the people are right, or maybe you can solve the situation some other way. It's very good advice, and I'm constantly feeling it with David, because he's very not an aggressive but very spontaneous and very can be
intimidating.
Yeah, intimidating and straightforward. And sometimes even when he writes email, I have this urge to write back right away, but I think, okay, better wait for a few hours and think for better answer. Than so that's very, very useful thing. Thank you.
I also want to thank you, especially for your examples and examples about the wife or girlfriend. This is so true.
So relatable.
Yeah, so true. I really like the idea about the email sending delay for 1 minute, because I don't use it, right? But every time I feel like, oh my God, and I have this feeling, and I feel like I wish I could do, I could change something, but
and every time in the world,
yes,
last moment.
yes, like it comes after I send it, so it's
not in this life.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, feeling that I don't know why, but I think
in every session, where whenever you, were dealing with those kind of scenarios where we can be more, team player. For our peers or other members on our team, and one of these is taking feedbacks directly, and that that needs much more courage. That I haven't tried it before. Yeah, I will try it out. And yeah, that those steps I had a confusion. It may be my lacking, that I couldn't believe it. Directly I need to research on that, then I can believe it. Now I am not able to control myself, that to ask you that question, that is that your feelings that you made these steps, or you have just got from another reference these steps to follow to get this emotional intelligence?
My emotional intelligence is not that high to come up with these things on my own. Obviously there are references I look through online, and actually these are 7 points. Actually these are accumulated into one. I try to put it in one presentation. In different places same things are being said in a different way, but actually there was one article where the author put all these steps together in one. Right? So these are not my words, definitely not mine. I don't take any credit of these. But whenever you look into emotional intelligence, you'll find the same thing. Maybe written in a different way, in a different wordings, but the idea is same. Because remember what I said, the aspects of it. This is self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, motivation. These are all, everybody talks about the same thing in a different way. So it is completely up to you. How do you perceive this message and how do you want to put it into practice?
Yeah, it's better if you share the reference, or is there that set reference where you got these steps in a in an article or something like that?
Sure, I'll do that. I'll give it to you. No worries.
I will be.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else?
Okay, if there's nothing else, then that's fine. Thank you very much for joining. I really appreciate your participation and proactiveness. Thank you very much. Do give feedback about how you felt about this presentation. And one thing I want to share, we need some more topics from you guys. When I was checking it last time, we didn't receive anything in last 2 months, I think. So please let us know what do you feel, what do you want to hear about, what do you want to know about. Because people who prepare this PDC, they put a lot of effort into this. I know it's just a half-an-hour presentation, but it takes 2 to 3 weeks to prepare this presentation, to prepare this class. So please do appreciate the people who do the PDC classes, and please do share feedbacks and topics as well. What do you want to hear about? All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.